they want to be in the league ladder right now. Mike Brown knows that down in 10th, just above Worcester and Irish, isn't where they want to be. But if they can win today, Harlequins will head towards Christmas within touching distance of Leicester in the top 6. It's that tight. Luke Pearce, the referee. Paris last weekend took charge of France against Japan. Hamish Smales and Roy Maybank are the touch judges. Keith Lewis, the TMO. It's a cool, still December afternoon in southwest London. Pitch firm and in decent position. 1 or 2 spots of sand dotted around, but otherwise nothing to moan about. And the European champions, Saracens, looking to regain some momentum in their quest to win back the Aviva Premiership title. A scruffy kick-off, but Harlequins get their hands on it eventually. Danny Kerr coming across the road in his England shirt last weekend, back in club colours today.
Yeah, not the ideal start for Harlequins. James Horwill just mistimed the jump or the flight of the ball, but Tim Visser relieved to fall on it, and Saracens get the first line out.
So, Jamie George throw, and they've split into 2 very distinct pods, and now they come together, and the target was right at the back, and it was a Toje, and this is Barrett. Took the ball standing still, so Mako Vunipola tries to provide a bit of impetus. Now Jamie George, and this is Farrell and Wiles. This is Vincent Koch, been charging around like a bull all season. Likewise Mako Vunipola. Still no Billy Vunipola this weekend, of course. He'll be out until the new year. This is Jackson Ray, recharged once more, but just a hint there that he might have been turned, but he did well to wriggle his body back and allow the likes of Callum Clark to go again.
It's a real fast start from Saracens, their ball in hand.
Oh, and here goes Koch again, and immediately making the impact, and this is George, and this will be the try. And how about that for a start from Saracens? Brad Barrett and his big mates immediately puncturing Harlequins' defence.
Well, we talked about the fact that Saracens may not be as pragmatic as perhaps they've been in the past. They've had a good look at the Harlequins' defensive sets and feel there might be some vulnerability there. They started at 100 miles an hour, putting the ball through the hands. A lovely line from Vincent Koch. Jamie George on hand to support, and the skipper sets the tone by going over for the first try.
Yeah, where you are.
Really, really nice, intricate play. It's the delivery of Farrell, and after that, they're in behind. Wonderful start, the perfect start for Saracens.
Over 200 games for the club now. He just played a Super Rugby final for the Sharks 9 years ago when Eddie Jones, it was that long ago, when Eddie Jones brought him to Vicarage Road, and what a signing Brad Barrett has been for this club. For the extras, he's a prolific harvester of points against Harlequins, and even when he clips the post, he gets 2 more.
Well, we mentioned it before the game, Nick. It's just a really clever line from Koch. He just closes his shoulder, comes back on the inside of Lang. Lang reaches his outside shoulder, which makes it very difficult to get back to the tackle. It looks like he may have hurt himself in that, but then they just go simply through the hands. And like we said before the match, if you are always turning in defensively and you get broken, it's very, very difficult for your cover to get there.
Well, Lang's back on his feet, and he got us back underway with the kick, but he's still clearly in a little bit of pain. He's shaking that left shoulder of his. Wigglesworth with the long clearing kick. And Quins will get time to draw breath with the line out. But, wow, a bit of an early clattering for the chap who wasn't expecting to start at fly half, James Lang.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd expect that from a side like Saracens. They're going to run at him. They're going to target him out a little bit. But really interested to see the pace and intensity they're playing at right from the off.
This is Matt Luamano. Jack Clifford had a shoulder operation this week. Arm still in a sling. He's going to be missing for the next 3 weeks. So the likes of Luamano will be busy. And the new man, Renaldo Bothma, as well. This is George Merrick. Charlie Matthews hurt his head at the wreck. That's why Merrick's starting today. His charge draws the penalty from Saracens and from Callum Clark specifically. You're not sure about that one?
No, it was a penalty. It was just a little bit over-eager. He'd be disappointed to give that one away. The ruck was clearly formed, and yes, he came through the middle, but you can't play the ball if it's already a ruck. So Merrick there gets tackled by Vunipola. He rolls away. Callum Clark comes through the middle, but it's a bit of a soft one.
Switch from 6 to 7 today, accommodating the return of Itoje. Berger. Berger's on the bench.
Sarri's line. Set fourth line.
This is Elia, 21-year-old Samoan test hooker. Plenty assuming that he is very much Harlequins' long-term future in the number 2 shirt. Elia. This is just his second Premiership start, but he's made a big impression in these parts.
Quinn's arriver.
Lang waits. He's still not happy with his shoulder.
Hold the line, hold the line.
He's still flexing it, that left shoulder.
Well, he hasn't had to throw a pass yet, Nick, and this will test him, because this will be a left-hand pass. We'll find out how bad it is if the ball comes out.
Kerr's going to go the other way for the time being, and Elia tried to go around Vunipola, didn't quite make it. Taken on by Luamanu. Battle at the moment to get into the 22, and this is Bothma, who is a destructive ball carrier when he gets going. Immediately welcomed by a couple of Saracens defenders. Oh, drop goal from Lang, and Jamie George was on him in a flash. And Visser, again, not for the first time in the match, having to get his dustpan and brush out, and he did well. Elia, Horwill, up in close proximity. The Samoan held on to it.
Really good line speed at the moment from Saracens. They're up and at it, really in the faces of Harlequins.
Kick from Brown to Wigglesworth, and Good trying to weave his way through the traffic, but the ball had gone the other way, and Hugh better, more assured than Visser in that situation. Here's Horwill. It's an absolutely key part of the game when you're playing Saracens. It's what Quins have talked about all week, the business of getting out of that zone efficiently, and that was not efficient. That's gone straight into touch and will come all the way back from where James Lang was.
Yeah, you just feel that that early hit that he got has just rattled him that little bit. He's just got to compose himself, get himself back into the game. He's had a charge drop goal attempt, and that one just goes straight out on the full, but it's the pressure that Saracens are putting him under. Really good line speed.
George Cruz with the line-out take. And they were trying to pull him down. It's a penalty.
Stand up. Chris, I'm all for a contest, but you can't wrap his inside line because you get the ball.
Okay, that's the same for them later.
Absolutely, yeah. Of course. Inside arm.
There's, James Lang, if you're just joining us and wondering why he's starting when he was originally on the bench, it's because Marcus Smith passed his head injury assessment at the Rec last weekend, but he's not been feeling well all week. He trained on Friday at the Surrey Sports Park in Guildford, but yesterday he wasn't right during the captain's run, so they decided to start with Lang, and now poor old Lang has got big problems, as we can see, Lawrence, with that left shoulder.
He's desperately trying to stay out there, but the medics are getting to him and keeps holding his shoulder, which is never a good sign, just giving it another test. They would not want to lose him. There'd be a real reorganisation in the back line.
Potentially big moment this for Owen Farrell, or big if you follow numbers. This will take him beyond 1,000 Premiership points down the years. Early penalty, early conversion, and Owen Farrell, now the proud owner of 1,001 Premiership points, and he celebrates with a mention for joining Jack, a charity that he's a huge supporter of. And he's joined a list that includes 20 others, but I'm sure that he'll accelerate up that over the coming seasons.
Yeah, Saracens going at a point a minute at the moment.
The ball bouncing kindly back into the arms of Good. Once again, it's Visser. He will hair after his own kick. Wigglesworth's closest to it. Oh, and Visser did well to close the door on Wigglesworth. A little bit unfortunate to get the knock on in the tackle, but that was hard running from the Scotland winger.
Yeah, just delayed it, didn't he? Just delayed the kick, that split second, and Visser chases his man down.
Lads,
that's really unfortunate.
He kicked it, definitely kicked it.
So while we're stood up, lads, while we're stood up, both teams tone it down a bit now, okay? Quins, 10 minutes in, let's tone it down a bit. Both teams.
Just been a bit loud, a bit noisy.
Turn it down a bit. I like that. I hope he's talking about their vocal cords rather than the aggression and intensity that they're showing.
Cruz and Zikwe and Atoje part of this Saracen scrum.
Yeah, first scrum. Not something you'd expect. Look at that, Harlequins, the worst out of all the teams, and Saracens not too much further behind. Nowadays, with the new scrum laws, most sides expect to be in the sort of mid-90s in terms of their success rate. They're not getting many against the head. Certainly should be quite efficient, and both of these sides have just struggled that little bit more than others.
Mako Bonapola preferred to work on the other side of the scrum today. Joe Marler in the Lions team held up that scrum in all three tests. Marler was, what did he call himself? Part of the midweek veg. He enjoyed himself with Rory Best and co when he wasn't involved in the test match routine. Midweek veg against the three test man Bonapola today in opposing scrums. Wigglesworth to Farrell, who was very much part of that effort in New Zealand, but not for kicks like that. It wasn't far away, as his face will tell you, but it was just out in the apology.
Yeah, it didn't quite have the slide rule out there. You could see exactly what he's trying to do. Having had the lion's share of possession, they've been running it, but just wanted to put the kick in behind, but a couple of millimetres too long.
Saris.
Here's this going. Looking for Horwill, but either not high enough or overthrown. Oh, and then Luamanu comes in with a giant-sized hit on
9. Danny.
Jackson Ray, who's down. He gets back onto his feet.
I think it's Danny Kerr that's actually penalised. Luamanu's okay there. Sort of slightly wraps his arm. It's Danny Kerr that comes in with the high tackle around the neck of Jackson Ray. Picked up by the referee.
That, however, wouldn't have been the tackle that hurt. The tackle that hurt was the legal one.
Well, there's the other question, Luamanu, did he actually use the arm? Did he get his arm out to the side? I'm not so sure he did.
Yeah. Nothing in the air, Quint.
You're trying to say that Danny Kerr's not a big hitter, Nick?
Well, we didn't hear his tackle.
Quint, step. No, George, don't need you. Good.
Atoje. Jamie George wraps back round, and now he has it in his waistcoat pocket. Mako Bonapola scrambling back to get involved as well. Chris Robshaw's found himself in a handy position, but not really affecting the direction of the ball for the time being. Bonapola has it. Horwill wants it. Saracens still with possession. But Joe Marler, who just found himself coming in from the wrong side.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Chris Robshaw perfectly legal there, and actually Saracens managed to drive away from him. Mako Bonapola got himself a little bit isolated, and Joe Marler gives away the penalty. Interestingly, Farrell deciding not to go for the points. They feel they got the momentum.
Don't know, but the line is yours. The line is yours. Okay, Sarri's legal formation.
Very big defensive effort needed here from Harlequins. George Cruz at the tail of that line out. It's opened it up, but there was crossing. Saracens' bodies in front of each other, blocking the ball. And that's a big reprieve.
Yeah, it is. It's a let-off, isn't it, really? But Luke Pearce did warn Saracens. He went just before that ball came in from Jamie George. He said, "Legal formation, please," which was basically saying when you land, we don't want people in front of the ball carrier.
One of the issues there for Saracens was as they came down, there was a little bit of buffeting which knocked the ball backwards and almost meant inevitably there would be Saracens players in front of the ball. But I guess as one of those players, you've got to be smart enough to get back round.
Well, it's also the risk you run if you throw the ball over the 15-metre line, because as soon as you do that, the referee perhaps gives sides a little bit more leeway, the defensive side, to come in at the side and bump and scrape around.
I'll manage the gaps, not you. Okay, who's receiver, Saris? Your receiver. Play.
Line out being called by Horwill. Once again, calling it to himself. Another penalty this time. A couple of Saracens penalties in quick succession will potentially cost them the best part of 75 metres. And frustration boiling over. It's like a scrap in a nightclub, everybody rushing through the door to see what's going on. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's going to kick off here because Saracens and Harlequins do not particularly like each other.
Well, it's Callum Clark who dragged Chris Robshaw to the floor, and then his Quins mates came in, but that's not what started it. George Cruz, one of the last to get hauled up off the dance floor.
Take a walk, Chris. Thank you. Hamish, I'm guessing you've got nothing here.
Actually, all starts from George Cruz walking through the middle of the ruck with his knee.
Nothing clear
into
enough.
Horwill's head.
Okay. Agreed.
James, Brad.
Let's have a listen to this little lecture that's going to go on here.
Fellas, James, do you want to say any more? We don't have. No, listen. We don't have that after the whistle. That stops. Okay? Excuse me. Are you listening to me?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, I'll deal with someone else.
That's fine.
Okay, nothing else. Talk to your team. There's a lot of chat going on. That now stops. Okay? Talk to your team. Talk to your team.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything intentional from Cruz there. I think Horwell sits up a little bit into him and then...
Well, he just left his knee there, didn't he?
But Horwell did bring his head up to it, so it's...
Claps in the ball.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Test of George Cruz's character over the last few months. In England, a rather a lion starter back in the summer in the first test. He's suddenly found himself out of the England picture. Nick Ezekwe getting games ahead of him at the moment. Charlie Ewells as well. Courtney Laws, of course. Joe Launchbury. Uncharted waters. His rise has been temporarily checked.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubting the quality that he brings. Maybe Eddie Jones just wants to see what sort of reaction he'll get from George Cruz, and I'm sure it's a positive one, but he's got a worthy foe today in the Wallaby, James Horwell, and they're ready at each other.
It's a great scrap, but look how much ground Harlequins have made off a couple of Saracens penalties at the line-out. Luamanu tried to come round the blind side. Another penalty.
Don't get up.
Reminder that Saracens haven't seen a yellow card all season.
Line out number 6, straight in the side, and taking the supporter.
But they are perilously close now. Maro Itoje, the latest to be picked out by the referee, Luke Pearce.
Well, he's actually given the last 2 penalties away. He pulled down the maul just a second ago, and then he's come in at the side there. And Luke Pearce, in no uncertain terms, told them...
Okay. Are you going for goal or touch?
The next one...
Yeah, of course you do, yeah.
We'll go to the bin.
Yeah, take that. Take the line, lads. Number 6, taking the supporter and in the side. Lads, discipline. Okay? Discipline.
Horwell, again, snaffling it. Callum Clark just standing off, marshalling the defence around the fringes. Likewise, Jamie George, Kerr, Roberts. First time we've really seen him trying to bust the defence.
Roll 7.
Bothma's waiting. Instead, it's Elia first. Jackson Ray tried to cotton on with the tackle. Again, on this shorter blind side, here's a Loffer. Handful of Samoan caps, trying the Anglo-Welsh Cup winner, Allianz Park, last month. Bothma once more.
7.
Elia goes in. Cares there. Instead, it's Marla. Starting to tighten their grip a little bit if they can. There's a feeling there that Mr. Monk Saracens ranks that the ball was there to be pilfered, but Harlequins did just enough to jam the door on the fingers. Horwill running into Cruz once more. Luamanu. Barrett putting his shoulder to the wheel.
Okay.
They've not made much ground metres-wise, but it's the most phases in the match thus far. Lang continuing to direct affairs 10 metres out, waiting perhaps to launch the backs. No sense just yet that the forwards have given up on their job.
They've just got to have patience here, Harlequins. They're edging closer and closer from that gain line, picking and going, getting low.
1-1.
Danny Kerr just waiting for the penalty here. He's already looked at Visser. He scored a try earlier on with that little kick earlier on in the season from Danny Kerr.
Brown looking for some profit from the kick. Ball went on its own little excursion, but we will come back for the offside from the knock-on. Brad Barrett picked the ball up in a position he shouldn't have done.
Third penalty in a row. Referee obviously not going to the pocket because it's not from one of the forwards. That was offside. But if I was Quins, I'd probably be tempted to pop this into the corner. Momentum builder.
So that was a standalone.
It's good to see from Quins. They're making quite a bit of ground just around the fringes there, taking on Saracens physically with the pack. In the first few passages of play, it's been a definite tactic from them.
Once again, Saracens almost know that the ball's going to go to Horwill, but they're happy to start the defensive work when he comes back down to earth.
Well, I think they know they're on a last chance in terms of giving away a penalty. Don't want to lose a man to the bin.
Elia. Horwill.
Away 1.
Vincent Cock just slowed him up enough to get a few more shirts around him.
Hold here, Paul.
Bothma seemed to get an initially strong leg drive, but then he was just outnumbered by Saracens defenders.
It's a real arm wrestle, isn't it, at the moment? Neither side giving an inch.
Hold here.
Meantime, Charlie Walker on the right wing has taken root, I think. The backs have been watching this like we have in recent times, but now Luamanu and Robshaw laying it back. Collier latches on to Marla. And almost millimetre by millimetre, they are gaining territory and drawing closer to the try line. Cock amongst those told to watch, they're offside. Horwill. Again, it's Robshaw picking it up. At what point will Danny Kerr say it's backs time? Tim Visser's looking eager. There are plenty of Saracens defenders waiting for him at the moment, though. Once again, the forwards start the job of trying to suck in some of those North London shirts. Horwill! Not quite close enough to stretch. Roberts, a few steps backwards, accelerates onto the ball. Tackled by George, Kerr, Brown. One more try to break our own Hugo Monya's Premiership try-scoring record for Quins, but not this time, but maybe Elia.
Short, release, short!
Just short.
Is it? I think that ball's down.
I think he scored that, you know.
I think the ball's down. It's worth a look.
Well, he's held up. Looks to be the signal from Luke Pearce.
It was just the faintest sign. The fact that he may have swiveled is it saying, I got the ball down, Elia.
I think it's definitely worth another look.
Time off. James. You said it, not me. I think there's a confusion in roles here because everyone comes up and challenges me. So you play, James. So I'll speak to you. I'm not speaking to 6 players. Okay?
The initial drive, it looks like he's off the floor, but there he spins. That's a try.
And he's entitled to do that. He's not held.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at this. This is short. And that's the first reaction that Luke Pearce sees. but then he swivels, and that's over the line.
But there is a way that you do ask the ref to take a look. You don't go up and demand and scream and shout at him because he's less inclined then, isn't he? Whereas if you go up and say, I think it's worth another look, you might get away with it.
Just how much work Saracens have been invited to do defensively,
okay, lads, water up.
And they've not missed one of them.
Working with you and with Brad, but it's continuing now. Absolutely, yeah.
Just one thing, when we're kicking going, there's just a little no arms or driving.
I'll keep watching that. And arriving up as well. Okay, scrum Quins.
Looking at those Saracens tacklers, by the way, the list is topped at the moment by Jamie George, who's made 11 already. George Cruz, who's made 10. Mako Vanapola, 8. Maro Itoje, 7. Maro Itoje has made as many as the entire Quins team between them.
Well, we've had the pick and go, haven't we, for so many phases. Real opportunity for Quins. You feel, given the possession that they've had, they've got to come away with something now.
Beyond the midway point of this first half, an early flurry of points.
Okay,
Brad
Quins,
Barrett's try, Farrell's conversion and subsequent penalty. Kerr accelerating, held on too well by Maitland, but still the multicoloured threat remains. And has the line been breached this time? No. Luke Pearce again. Johnny on the spot decides immediately that close but not quite close enough.
Well, it's a great little break from Danny Kerr. The threat, the hole just opened up for a second, invited him in there. Look at that, Callum Clark couldn't quite get off the scrum, but that's a really good tackle from Maitland, coming to his rescue.
Yeah, let's play. Yeah.
Easy, come on.
Yeah, that's fine.
There's Maitland, who was Scotland's last line of defence as the fullback a week ago at Murrayfield, and the winger equally Saracens' last line of defence just then.
This is potentially a more dangerous scrum for Harlequins. They've got two sides of the pitch to defend. Got the posts, which make it even more complicated. Options both sides.
Stand up. Just too much movement by both sides. Okay, settle quicker. Yeah, of course. Just take a step this way. No, I think we'll go this way. Second row stability, okay? Just in the back. Quinn, second row, just a bit of stable.
What a test this is right now, not just of Alex Sanderson's Saracens forwards, but also their defence, Austin.
Well, yeah, and I think it's better actually for a midfield scrum because you end up splitting those two strong defenders in Barrett and Farrell. You only get Barrett and Farrell and Bosch together, they're very difficult to break, as we saw, particularly when Maitland steps in. But you have got the opportunity for Danny Kerr. If he can get off the side of the scrum again, it's a lot more difficult as a unit of just three guys to defend against. It's easier to cut lines.
Jamie Roberts just outside Lang on the open side, the right-hand side. Mike Brown and Tim Visser closest to us on this left-hand side. Ball's been there. Kerr goes to the right-hand side. It is Roberts, the big Welsh hammer. Oh, still stretching and pushing, but somehow Saracens' defence again has repelled the threat. For how much longer? Maybe not much longer. Walker scores, and Harlequins finally have the try. All the blood and thunder of the pack, and finally when they take the long route, the long kick into the arms of Charlie Walker, finally they get reward.
It was almost inevitable, wasn't it? You can't have that much possession, you can't have that many consecutive penalties without something giving way, and Saracens did brilliantly. They went with the battering ram, Jamie Roberts, and he was brought up inches short of the line, but as a result the defence had to narrow so much, and Danny Kerr has got that wonderful skill in the locker just to be able to put the kick. A couple of weeks ago he found Visser on one wing, this time it's Charlie Walker on the other, and I guess the consolation for Saracens is that the try has been scored out wide near the touchline.
Yeah, his kicking game in open play stands him out as one of the best in the world at scrum halves. There's not many footballing nines like that in the world rugby. We've seen him do it with the outside of his foot. Perfect kick on that occasion. But his kicking game is absolutely top-notch in open play.
Well, they will have to satisfy themselves with the 5 points, but it's a start. They're on the way back. Harlequins 5, Saracens 10.
And Alex Good knew he was under a lot of pressure. You can see him there shouting, trying to call guys out. He knows how tight they are. They're all waving them across. He can't cover that space, but he has to cover the guys in front of him first. But it still takes an absolutely pinpoint kick to convert those points. Well played, Danny Kerr.
Why did it take so long to get the numbers out there, Austin? Why weren't they there in the first place?
Well, because they had to secure the ruck underneath the post, otherwise they'd have conceded there. So it brings the defence tighter when you have such a good carry like Jamie Roberts in the midfield. And that's what opens up the space out wide.
And also the patience that Harlequins showed in attack there. They just kept knocking on the door, kept knocking on the door. The defence has the concertina, and eventually the space is out wide.
And this has been very unlike Saracens, actually, because they've given away lots of penalties. They're conceding lots of possession. We haven't really seen this, particularly from their first-choice team.
5 penalties conceded so far for Mark McCall's men.
Okay, yeah. Might be time off here, that's okay.
Let's have a chat with Nick Evans, part of Quinn's coaching team this season, of course.
Yeah, that's time's off.
Talk about your response to the tries in a moment, Nick, if we can. But we've got a medical update on James Lang. Is he fully fit?
6.
Yeah, no, he's all right, mate. He's cracking on. He's just took a bang to the shoulder. So, like all good teams, mate, we're nice and physical. So he looks the part out there at the moment, which is good.
He was taking an early battering. They tested him early on. You'd have expected that.
Nothing. You expect nothing less than with Saracens, mate. They come down your channel. So no, he's responded well after a few early hiccups, as has the team. Yeah,
the overall response to the concession of those early points, Nick, your patience and the scoring of the try.
Yeah, look, I think we got stung early. I think you nailed it on the head there. The most important thing was patience. We just kept knocking on the door and had really good ball retention. And obviously our centres getting involved narrowed them up a little bit, and we managed to put an excellent little kick over the top. There's a little bit of space out wide against Saracens, as you know, with their line speed. So it's nice. It's a good physical game, just the way I used to like it.
Brilliant. Nice hat, by the way.
Oh, thanks, mate.
You're rocking that look. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Cheers, Nick.
Seeing the funny side of things now that his side are back in the game. Saracens just can't get their hands on the ball. They've given away the last 4 penalties, which has meant that they've had no possession for quite some time, and thought they'd just turned over the line out, but a little knock-on spotted by the referee.
And they've...
Now, next Saturday evening, we will be in Limerick as we dive headfirst into another fortnight of Challenge Cup, Champions Cup rugby. Munster against Leicester from Thomond Park, and then we've got 4 games next Sunday. Lunchtime kick-off on the west coast of France, the Atlantic coast. La Rochelle against Wasps. Same time, you got a choice. We were back here for Quins against Ulster. Mid-afternoon, Saracens against Clermont, last season's Murrayfield final revisited, and then a Devon Sunday tea time for Exeter against Leinster. So much to look forward to on BT Sport, European-wise, over the next fortnight.
Yeah, just one of the things that we were discussing with the injury to Marcus Smith is how Harlequins might approach this game against Saracens, and just looking at the sort of balance of where they're trying to attack. Nick Evans talked about Saracens coming down the channel. Well, look at that playmaker balance for Harlequins, picking and going 50% of the time, really, as Austin said earlier, trying to tie in that Saracens pack and take them on up front. Very little going, well, nothing going off 12 at all around 9 and 10, which kind of makes sense. Keep it close to where the strengths are in the team.
If we'd have had access to those statistics 10, 15 years ago, Oz, would that playmaker balance have changed? Would it have been more of 10, or has that traditionally been what it would have looked like?
I think traditionally they'd stay roughly the same, and it just depends who you're playing against, what the conditions are like, and how much you can vary it week to week. But they have taken Lang out the equation. So they've got a young lad there, so they've just decided to play inside him and not give him too much responsibility and too much ball early on in the game, which is very clever.
Well, especially when you get to bang on the shoulder until they know whether he's going to be okay to carry on. As they build themselves into the game, we might start to see that playmaker balance shift a little bit towards Lang.
You're wondering how Dimitri Katrakilis is, by the way. You remember he took an awful blow to the throat a couple of months ago now. We've barely seen him since he took the trick up from Montpellier. He's back on his feet, he's running around, he's kicking again. He's not yet in full contact training, but he's certainly on the road to recovery. But in the meantime, the likes of young Marcus Smith and now James Lang are getting blooded in the Aviva Premiership in a way that that bloke did as well a season or so ago. Approaching the half hour. Kerr launches Quins again. Lang. Good. Well placed. Calls for the mark.
Just one more, 13. Just one more.
One of Saracens' 4 tries in what actually was a playoff securing win in the end at Wembley against Harlequins last April. Saracens winning the home game, albeit at Wembley. Harlequins winning the home game here. And second time in 2 seasons they've won at home. They're going to have to come from behind here as we head into the final 10 minutes.
Just really smart play from Alex Good there. As the kick came across to him from Lang, he sort of scanned up, had a quick look, realised the Harlequins' defence had really pressed. The kick chase was up. He made a mark. And how about that for a clearance?
Kerr, Lang. Luamanu, head down. Studs pumping into the turf, and Lang again. Low and into the midriff of Good, who will charge it back. He and Ollie Woodburn and nobody else have carried the ball across Premiership metres more than anybody else so far this season. Farrell, that was laid back deeply and with a bit too much depth, and Brad Barrett had to go back to rescue the situation.
Did it brilliantly. Not only did he pick the ball up, but he got to his feet, just brought his side another couple of metres so that they could recycle the ball. Great work from the skipper. The Saracens put it through the hands.
Quins down to 14 men as well, Nick. Horwell's down, I think. Is it Horwill?
It's not Horwill.
No, it's not Horwill.
Is that Will Collier? It's Will Collier, the tight head prop, who's taken a really nasty blow to the left shoulder.
Caused by his own player.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Renaldo Bothma cracking into to the left shoulder. As we heard the TMO Keith Lewis tell us, he'd seen the replay, he knew what was going to happen here.
Friendly fire, not what you need.
Well, everybody else around these parts absolutely thrilled that Renaldo Bothma is finally making his debut for Harlequins today. Perhaps not right now, Will Collier. Over a year after the club announced his signing last November, the Namibian captain, who arrived from the Bulls in Pretoria over the summer with a broken hand, then broke his arm in an A-League game in September. So poor old John Kingston, who was as excited about Bothma's arrival as anyone this season, has had to wait. He's had to be patient to finally get his big Namibian on the pitch, and here comes a big Englishman, Kyle Sinclair, on for Will Collier, and that's an injury change, and it'll be a frustrating one for Quins, who went with Collier at the start of this match. John Kingston going with Collier just because he thinks he offers more solidity scrum-wise at the moment. In his mind, he's the best scrummaging tight head in the Premiership right now, so that will explain Collier's start ahead of Sinclair. And the injury will explain why Sinclair is now on with the best part of 50 minutes still to play.
Well, what it does is it sort of changes the options available to John Kingston and his staff later on in the game when you start to see the benches being unloaded. Saracens obviously got a very powerful group of players on the bench, and that change, Sinclair, as good as it is to see him back, was probably made a little bit earlier than John Kingston would have wanted.
There's clearly too much pressure when you're coming down the crowd, so control it better. Otherwise, you give away the free kick. Saris, I'll control their pressure, don't just stand up. Come on then, let's go.
Kyle Sinclair against Mako Vunipola. Kyle Sinclair reintroducing himself as a replacement after completing his suspension off the bench against Bath last week. Remember, he copped a 7-week ban for coming a bit too close to the eye area, as they say in the press releases of Michael Patterson. He's back with us now.
Okay, Danny.
Solid scrum above a ball that's going nowhere.
Yeah, ball's there in the second row. You can pick it up out the second row.
You've had it.
Finally gets to use it. Lang, Roberts, Alofa. Oh, Roberts has gone through the tackle of Farrell. Farrell did what he could to get back, but Alofa tries to make the most of that Jamie Roberts break, and it's opening up here, and this is Lang. Really nicely done. Few dummies of the ball. Visser back inside, but only to Wigglesworth, who's dragged out of play by a pumped-up Kyle Sinclair. But that was all about the break of a Welshman.
Well, it's Jamie Roberts against Owen Farrell, and it's not often that we see Owen Farrell missing tackles. He just went a little bit too high. And if you do that on a guy like Jamie Roberts, who's got that power, strength and ability to offload, then you run the risk. But for Wigglesworth, cover tackling and corner flagging, look at this, just goes too high, doesn't he?
Really nice play from Quins, wasn't it? Particularly Lang pumping the ball, getting around the corner. Now they're in this chance to get the drive going again.
Six is bound in, he's legal. He's bound in.
Care. Here's Lang again ball in two hands. He was hit hard, but he got the ball away. And this is Walker, is back, looking for the flag, which would have meant the try, but Saracens this time had enough numbers to repel him. Brown. Ball spits out, picked up by the captain, James Horwill. Try in a losing cause at Wembley last spring. Alofa. Sinclair shaped to take the ball. He didn't get it, but Merrick does. Tackled by Itoje.
He's part of the ruck, he's part of the ruck. Turnover legal, turnover's legal.
Oh, it's been won back really nicely by Callum Clark.
Yeah, it's good counter drive from Saracens. They identified when the ball was out. Itoje and company went over the top, and Callum Clark's able to turn it over, and what a crucial turnover it is. Saracens haven't touched the ball for about the last 10 minutes of this game.
Vincent Cock clattering his way through, and Wigglesworth did well to stay on his feet there and have the wherewithal to fish the ball up beyond the 10-metre line. Some really nice running from Harlequins, though, really threatening this Saracens line once more.
Yeah, Danny Care with that run around. He's such a dangerous player. Just what he wanted was someone to come back on an angle. But good scramble defence from Good on Walker. And there's the counter drive. Ball's almost out the ruck. Assistant referee called a penalty, but the referee was happy.
Elia to Horwill. The diving pass from Care, the spectacular, finding Lang, and eventually the ball is in the arms of Brown. Barrett working industriously over the ball to try and win it back for Saracens, who have had a thorough workout defensively over the last 20-25 minutes, ever since they took a 10-0 lead. Flicked back by Sinclair, who's enjoying himself, I think it's fair to say. He's happy to be playing rugby again.
Use it.
Care decides that now is the time to kick. Bothma will do what he can up in the air, but ends up in Good's hands. Marler was on him quickly. There's a really good intensity and energy about the way actually both sides are playing, but particularly Quins at the moment.
Believe that tackle that Sinclair's just made there is only Quins' 11th tackle of the game, just to give you an idea of how little ball Saracens have had.
This game is so good that the Seagulls have come in. They've heard.
Everyone stop,
Even one or two albatrosses amongst that lot.
I think Lawrence just threw a bag of chips on the pitch, to be honest.
Feed the birds. They know a good game, London birds, when they see one. All the way from Trafalgar Square, those pigeons. Oh, and Bothma just couldn't quite hold on to it.
Advantage to the knock-on. Okay, well, you lads. Go. Back to the knock-on, no advantage.
Namibian
Scrum, sorry.
Captain.
Well, I tell you what, they're rattled, aren't they, Saracens?
Yeah, we double-checked.
They've really had to work so hard on the back foot in this game, and we thought it would be a tough contest up front.
Scrum, Saracens.
The way Saracens started the match, they came out the blocks firing, but you've got to give enormous credit to Harlequins for the way that they fought their way back into this game and dominated for the best part of 25 minutes.
And we often travel around the country, Lawrence, talking to directors of rugby who are about to face the challenge of Saracens, and John Kingston was no different this week. He said it's dead simple. First things first, you've got to front up physically. You've got to knock them back on the gain line. He saw what Exeter did last weekend at Allianz Park, and that's what they've been working on this week down at the Surrey Sports Park.
Yeah, as you said, they've had the sign over the Saracens. There's not many teams in the Premiership that can say that they've beaten them consecutively at their own ground. So they know exactly what's required, and it's always a little bit spiky. Look at that, 83 tackles, 70% possession for Harlequins, and eventually it's going to take its toll.
See how that breaks down. Not surprisingly, there isn't a single Quinn.
Well, it's also
that lot.
every single, apart from Atoji, you could argue he's a second row anyway. Every single player is in the tight five there, so gives you an idea of exactly where Harlequins are attacking, and the players that they're trying to make work really, really hard, and the space will open up.
They've just got to improve their execution a little bit, Harlequins, because for all those stats, Saracens have still got a 5-point lead.
Crouch!
All right, spoiler.
Spoiler alert, Sarries are still in the lead without playing any rugby. It's what they do. They're experts at it.
Just a smidge over 2 minutes to half-time. Farrell thought about employing Barrett, then employed his right boot, and then employed it to magnificent effect.
What a kick. I tell you what, it's not often you catch Mike Brown out of position. He's one of the best fullbacks in the world. Look at this, nonchalantly. Wigglesworth to Farrell.
Open up, lads.
I don't think Brown's necessarily thought it could go that far. Wonderful kick.
I was watching him in the warm-up kicking, and he seems to be able to defy gravity when he kicks the ball. He's effortless, he just flows through it.
Good contest, backwards.
Saracens this time getting up, and initially it looked like they'd won the ball from a line-out that was originally Harlequins, but those sparks, the embers that we saw flare up half an hour ago, not totally extinguished, it seems.
No, listen, Quins are at their best when they get under the skin of their opponent. I saw them at Wasps this season when they're playing against the side. James Horwill, Rob Shaw, every opportunity just to have a little bit of a niggle, getting under their skin.
Oh, just had a huge smile on his face. He'll be enjoying this contest. Well, this is Joe's game, isn't it? Kind of game for which he was born for.
And they have got a pack that like to mix it. They've got some real physical guys in there. A little bit of edge, a little bit of nastiness. It's probably why they've got such a good record here against Saracens over the years.
Into the final minutes.
Stay on side 9. Quins!
Bothma trying to keep Wigglesworth back with his shepherd's crook. Any way you can. Roberts, 20 seconds left. This is Sinclair. I suspect that Quins might be happy to run the clock down here and head for the sheds, just 5 down.
Yeah, just game manage this. Danny Kerr, they'll do one more contact. James Horwill there, waiting, he'll take it on.
Okay, 7. Thank you. No, don't touch him, don't touch him.
This might be the moment to draw the curtain for 15 minutes. Indeed it is. Wonderful start for Saracens. Brad Barrett's early try. Owen Farrell's conversion and penalty gave them a 10-0 lead, but pretty much since then, Mark McCall and Alex Sanderson have been watching how their finely tuned defence has done. It's been cracked once. Kerr's cross kick, Charlie Walker's try, and it's a fascinating contest on a Sunday at the Stoop. Harlequins 5, Saracens 10 at half-time. Thanks very much, Tim. Good to hear from Marley. Took over the shirt from Maggie Alfonsi once Maggie had retired a few years back and part of the effort that got England to that Women's World Cup final in Belfast at the back end of the summer. Like the idea of having men's and women's doubles headers at the same ground. Well, men's match followed by the the women's match, opportunity to see both. By the way, if you want to watch that game, Quins against Sarries women, then it'll be streamed live on the England Rugby Facebook page. So fancy watching two best teams in the Tyrrell's 15s Premier at the moment, then that's where you need to head once we're done here. Brown sprinting onto the ball and taking it confidently.
Lads, he's out of the way.
A great take from Mike Brown, wasn't it?
He is in the way, but
had to take it almost on the run. Just managed to juggle and hold on to the ball. Really solid, as we know he is.
Just remember that bit of space, lads.
On an escape
really happy,
bit,
so.
and that Vincent Cott wasn't far away. Did really well to hold on to that. He's played more for this club in the professional era. Recently overtook Nick Easter's previous best.
Bind!
Josh Chisholm on the bench this evening for Quins. My word.
Second time, too much pressure.
Tell you what, first scrum penalty goes against Saracens, and one thing they would have talked about, Nick, at half-time is just the fact that when they get the ball, they've got to hold on to it. They've had no possession at all in that first half, and the first thing they do is kick a poor box kick by Wigglesworth standards, hands possession back to Quins, and that man will be delighted. Adam Jones, of course, with the first penalty of the scrum going to his side.
Got Adam Jones and Graham Rowntree building the scrums during the week down in Guildford, which is a bit like needing your house built and digging up Sir Christopher Wren and getting him to do it. I mean, you cannot get better architects of a scrum than those two, can you, lot?
Brilliant, and both sides as well, loose head and tight head. I mean, you've got everything covered there, haven't you? Almost overqualified there.
What of the kicking of James Lang? Survived the early battering and the blow to his left shoulder to stay with us at the start of this second half, to stretch the lead. Yes, held its line. And the Harlequins moved to within a couple of points at the beginning of the second period. Quins 8, Sarries 10.
I think conversely for John Kingston and his team, I think they'd have talked about the need to convert the possession and the territory that they've had into points, and he'll be delighted that in the opening couple of minutes of this half, they've got something in the place where it matters the most, the scoreboard.
Again, Brown taking it in. Relatively quite weak for him training-wise. Picked up a nasty dead leg against Salmoa across the road last weekend, but he's very much with us today, as is Matt Luamanu, who was prominent in the Quins 8 shirt in that first half. Walloped away by the Quins 9 Care to the Sarries 8 Ray. Runs into Wigglesworth, but we play on because that collision didn't have an impact on any potential Quins defence. And this is a Toje. First carry in the match for a Toje. Decent ground. This is Clark. Farrell, Ezekwe.
Tackle!
It's such a long time since we mentioned Saracens' names in an attacking sense. Stringing passes together, trying to get a few phases of their own, and lucky to carry on with that, but they've conceded 10 metres. Looseness of the pass doing nothing for Owen Farrell. Chris Robshaw tries to hold it off the floor, and in the end does enough not to keep it off the floor, but to force the knock-on.
Well, it often happens in a game when you've been starved of possession. When you suddenly do get the ball back, you come up with the odd mistake, and credit Harlequins for the way that they're putting that Saracens under pressure, but it's just a bad pass.
Can't be pre-engaged this time.
Here it comes here. Normally so reliable, isn't he, Mako Vunipola? Just puts that one a little bit low for Owen Farrell.
Sure he's not pre-engaged.
And again,
control it, okay?
possession turned over.
Of course, yeah.
Pretty grim November for Saracens in the Younger Welsh Cup and the Premiership. 4 games, 4 defeats. Lost their record. Those 2 in the Premiership to Gloucester and Exeter. Statistically, as we've been saying, the worst run of results for 7 seasons. And we're having to dig in deep here to end that depressing sequence. Harlequins been pushing hard for the last half an hour. Brown off his left boot into the arms of Wiles. Starting to mention names that we've not mentioned for a while. Brown once more. Takes on Farrell. Is Bothma, who has caught the eye on his debut finally for Quins, the Namibian Marla. Funapola, the first line of defence. Sinclair waddles across, having taken the place of Will Collier in the first half. Like a shoulder injury for Collier. Stockstill and ramrod straight was Alex Good. Ray. Horwill was onto Wigglesworth.
It's just scrappy, isn't it? They're just making slight errors that they don't normally make. This position, you normally find them really tight. They get Wigglesworth in position. They're getting back there now for the box kick, but they're just slightly off their game today, Sarries.
Brown comes forward to claim it. And again in front of him, claims it well. Kerr, Robshaw, Lang, Visser and Roberts, and now Alofa. And Visser's chasing the kick, and how well did Alex Good do? Brilliantly, and then accelerates away and gets those turquoise boots skipping beyond defenders. Sinclair was the last of them.
That's a penalty. That should be a penalty to Saracens. The tackler did not release Alex Good to play the ball.
Okay, you two.
Farrell. As Saracens look to put on the famous press. Farrell leading the chase. Finding touch. Sean Maitland.
Onside by the
lengthy
winger.
dash to the Wallabies try line at Murrayfield last weekend. Nothing quite so spectacular for Saracens just yet. This is Zazikwe. Jackson Ray very rarely puts a foot wrong for Saracens. 7 carries for him now. Bosch and Wiles, it's beginning to open up a little bit. Lang gets across to make an important tackle, and the ball was lost forward by, I think, Wiles before it went out of play. So it'll be a Harlequin scrum.
Knocking the touch.
I told you.
Took a blow to the mouth.
Yeah, that looks painful. They do look dangerous when they have the ball, don't they, Saracens? They look physical, they get over the gain line, but they just haven't had enough of it in this match. And again, nice take up there by Jackson Ray. They work the ball to this edge. Bosch to Wiles, and you can see exactly why. Just wanted to recycle that, and as he hits the ground, he turns the ball over.
Second one.
This is where Maro Itoje got the smack to the left side of the face. Mike Brown running into him.
I'll work with it.
And while he's gone off to be patched up, Jacques Berger on in his place.
To work on, isn't it? Okay, time on.
Discipline here, boys, discipline.
A handy replacement, isn't he? More used to wearing the number 6 jersey. Sort of his kind of game as well, the way it's panning out at the moment, Berger. Saying hello to his mate from Namibia, that's a nice touch.
Shake of the hands for a scrum. Renaldo Bothma and Jacques Berger, who will be 35 by season's end.
They won't be shaking hands until after the game now.
Bind. Set.
What a great shot. 2 scrums, ironing board flat.
Use it.
Luamanu just stepping across to the left-hand side. There goes Roberts. A bit of chat in the week about him not being released to play for Wales against the Box yesterday, but all part of the Premiership regulations.
Well, Saracens will be relieved to have the line out now, won't they? Jamie Roberts there, he's been heavily involved, not walking and running too far away from his pack.
Remember, by the way, that Francis Saili, the big summer signing from Munster, took a blow to the head against Wasps, what feels like 100 years ago now. He's still not back from that, seeing a specialist this week, I'm hearing. Quinn's hoping that he won't be far away, but that's why we're not seeing Saili at the moment, that head injury at the Rico. Mako Vunipola, his brother, will be back at the end of January. This is Bosch. Wigglesworth onto it quickly. Farrell as Saracens try to press the accelerator. Good to Maitland.
Queens, midfield, offside.
So a penalty with the advantage there for Bosch again. Wiles, pass behind him, just checked any kind of momentum. Berger, Vunipola, that was very nicely done, and he's scattering tacklers in his wake. But,
back we come. That's legal, you're fine, but there's no advantage over here. No, you're fine.
Come back for the offside, but that was some carry from Mako.
No,
well, and since the opening 10 minutes, it's probably been Saracens' best spell in the game.
3 metres.
It's exactly what they're about, just holding on to the ball, recycling it.
No advantage for this, so
they're just starting to get inside shoulders, aren't they? They're starting to get guys running back against the grain, double loading defenders, getting big ball carriers through the tackle with their hands.
Okay, no worries. Time off, please.
They're very, very good at it. When they want to isolate one defender, very few sides do it better than them. There's an example earlier on. This is what I mean by it. There's 3 defenders there for Harlequins, all forwards. Elias in the middle, but you've got 2 guys running at the space, and what they're trying to do is just isolate the middle guy so he doesn't quite know who he's going to take. And you only have to get half through those scenarios and get one offload, and it leads to 7 points.
Yeah,
we're seeing that on quite a few occasions. It also makes the defence tighter as well on the subsequent phase.
Yeah, and the real lesson for people watching at home is that the angle of those runners, because they're running back towards the grain, which means that the defence then can't drift off. They're not running laterally sideways, they're running back against the grain, which makes it much more difficult for the defence.
Yeah, time on, please. So number 6 is injured, not coming back, correct? Okay.
It's a fairly decent test match waterboy for 2 of the 3 November international weekends across the road. Back to being a Premiership fly half today, with a little bit of magic perhaps from the stands. My goodness, Saracens have had to weather a storm. They saw their 10-point lead slowly eroded by Quins, but much better at the start of this second half, and they've re-established a 5-point one. Harlequins 8, Saracens 13, and Ross Chisholm comes on. Vincent Koch as well has been replaced by Juan Fagallo, the time of the match when the Dioers start to play their cards.
Yeah, we'll wait for him. Just give it a second, wait for the captain.
James Horwill as well is having his right knee strapped up. There's no indication yet that the captain will have to be replaced. They've got a couple of youngsters, Dino Lamb and Archie White, amongst their replacements.
Okay, all the changes made,
seems fine to go on.
So stay behind, Quins.
Yeah, that Owen Farrell penalty was the first points Harlequins have scored for 40 minutes, so they'll be mightily relieved to get back on the scoreboard.
Ross Chisholm, by the way, coming on for Alofa.
Okay, you taking it in, Saris, take it in.
Brown. Just to find some room, just around to the right is Sean Maitland and Kerr. There goes Elia. But there's a bit of looseness from Quins, which means that we can have a chat with Alex Sanderson. A lot on your plate, Alex, particularly in that first 40 minutes. Why were you struggling for rhythm so much, not quite hitting your straps?
Yeah, it was a weird old first half, wasn't it? Looking at the territorial and the possession stats that we got fed through at half-time and the number of tackles Quins made to ourselves. But I think ultimately there was a couple of key set pieces where we gave them not just possession but penalties and the back of ill discipline. And then defended resolutely in our 22 for so long with so many phases. for them to score a relatively soft try through a chip in the corner. For the most part, we're very happy with a lot of what we've done. When we've had the ball and we've kept it, we've got over the gain line and we've looked dangerous, but we've got to keep it. And we've got to come alive when we've defended for as long as we have, as hard as we have, to capitalise when we do have possession. That's the key, really.
Do we have to assume that there will be a bedding in process when all the internationals come back? Is that something that, as coaches, you can accept to a certain extent?
I think if they haven't played a lot, like some of our guys haven't played a lot over the last 3 or 4 weeks, Faz, for instance, very fresh at the moment, as I heard you talking about, highest paid water boy in professional rugby at the moment. But in terms of what we're about, our culture as well as our systems, not really. They've been doing it for 8 years. I guess there's a little bit of rustiness. It's never an easy place coming down here,
Now they're in your faces again, aren't they?
Yeah, Quins are always a different animal when they play us. It's a local London derby, and we've got a good record against them. And we're the scout that they want for this season, aside from top 4 and playoffs and that. So they tend to grow a pair, pardon the expression, when we get down here on their turf. And as such, we've got to lift our game as well, not get taken into the little scraps and the arm wrestle. Try and rise above it and stick to the plan when we do get the ball.
Good man, Alex. Always good to talk to you.
All
Thank you.
Cheers.
Christmas baubles, I think that's what we were talking about. Always handy with the tree about to go up over the next couple of weeks.
Set.
This has been a full-on, full-blooded contest so far. Saracens again with that 5-point lead. You'll have noticed, by the way, Dino Lamb had come on for James Horwill in the middle of all that. Concerning looking injury for Harlequins. Will Skelton on as well for Ezekwe.
Advantage to the knock-on.
Saracens again making a use of themselves at the breakdown. Here's Walker, scorer of Quinn's try before half-time. Sinclair, and now Bothma running into George, who took a blow to the face, and George stays down. Brown, caught by Clark, hearing that Maro Itoje isn't coming back after his cut mouth, so Skoltberger now with us for the rest of this contest. Care under pressure from Farrell, but gets the ball away. Good. Tried to go around Lang, does go around. It's actually Dino Lamb that he went around.
Yeah, ball's trapped in by Sarries.
Farrell's waiting for it.
Hold in front, hold in front.
Quinn shouting, right foot, and that was what
That's played
Lamb
in, played in.
Targeted, but
Taken
clearing
in.
away, and now Chisholm as well. Once more, we'll see that right foot. It's a little bit too deep, maybe. Outside the 22, however, so Brown has to run it, and Farrell did what he could to slow him down.
Seatbelt.
There's a hint of a high tackle, and that's been confirmed by Keith Lewis, the TMO. Seatbelt tackle, you'll have heard Keith say.
Over the shoulder, seatbelt, high tackle. No, we're playing.
Both sides just starting to rack up the injuries, rack up the knocks. Oz, it's that kind of match. It's been hugely physical.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very physical the first 50-odd minutes of it. You just get the sense it's going to come down to one missed tackle on someone breaking through. But also, which side can retain possession? Neither side wants it at the minute. They're quite happy to play kick tennis. I think now Harlequins are in a position where they're on the 10-metre line. We'll practice all week as a starting point. What can they do? Do they go back to their tight driving game? Or do we see the backs open up?
George Merritt, perhaps becoming the #1 line-out target now in the absence of James Horwill.
Okay, no, don't change. No.
Elia has it. Slapping from Sinclair. It was Elia again who held on to the ball. That's where they started.
Yeah,
the game
well,
line.
haven't they? Straight over the gain line. Good 10 metres, but the ball has become static.
Marler. Berger lassoing on. This is Roberts released by Lang.
Yeah, that's the right decision. You can't crawl when you're held on the floor like that.
Just release,
Got to release the ball if you want to keep moving forward.
The was complete and then you threw it on. Yeah, I thought. Held on the tackle, no release.
Yeah, Brad Barrett actually made the tackle and looked up to the referee as if to say, you're going to let him get away with that.
Look at that. 95% tackle success rate. That's just 5 of them under the intensest of pressures, particularly in the middle of that first half when the fires were
Open up, Quint.
raging at their brightest.
Let's just see what Saracens can do with the ball now. It's kind of tit for tat, isn't it? No side can string more than a couple of phases together at the moment.
Barrett, Vunipola, Farrell, that's really nice. This is Maitland coming off his wing and now good, and they're starting to fly some kites here. Here goes Wiles. They can still move the ball with a crispness and a freshness. Maybe a bit more percussion here from Jamie George, the big bass drum, and likewise from the biggest bass drum of them all. About as big as the Millennium Wheel, Will Skelton. Wigglesworth, not quite. He picked up the ball and therefore he was fair game. It was hunting season.
That's a great turnover if he's made it. Oh! Thought Rob Shaw had done that. He timed his run to perfection there because
Everyone's on
Wigglesworth
the
had just picked the ball up. Look, he's shaking his head
So
saying, give me a second, I want to turn that over. Scrum half had picked the ball up. Just spun the ball round, but the referee blew the whistle before he could get it back on the Quinn side. Great work from the England player.
His performances across the road during the Autumn Internationals made the World Cup a couple of years ago feel like it was 20 years ago. He's just reinvented himself, hasn't he? He's integral to what England are up to at the moment, and he has always been integral to what this club's about.
Yeah, I'd say outside of someone like Owen Farrell, he's the first one on the team sheet now for Eddie Jones, and whether it's 6 or 7, it's just so selfless. He works incredibly hard, and without the added sort of layer of responsibility, he's really revelled in that, and you've got to give him full credit to the way he's come back and elevated himself since 2015.
To enter the final 20 minutes of the Aviva Premiership campaign for the next fortnight, because for the next 2 weeks we are going all continental again, and we'll be in Limerick on Saturday evening for Munster against Leicester in the Champions Cup. But before then, by the way, we'll have had Newcastle-Bordeaux in the Challenge Cup on the Saturday. Then on the Sunday, so much rugby to bring you. La Rochelle against Wasps at lunchtime. And a choice of viewing, because we will also have Harlequins against Ulster. John Kingston readying his side with the visit of the Northern Irishmen, and then Saracens against Claremont. They're at Allianz Park, repeat of last season's final.
Okay,
and then on tea time in the deepest southwest, back at Sandy Park for Exeter against Leinster. If you only had to pick one match to watch next season, next weekend, you'd be hard pushed. Maybe you would go for Mark McCall's Saracens against last season's runners-up Claremont. You don't have to make that choice. You can watch them all with us on BT Sport next weekend.
Dangerous scrum here for Saracens, right under the post. They got the penalty advantage. That's even things up. They're carrying on.
Over here, lads. All around, penalty.
Just wonder whether they'll just take the gift of 3 points, take them to 8 points ahead, more than a converted try. It makes sense, doesn't it, really, given they've been under pressure for large parts of this game.
I don't think referee Luke Pearce had taken the whistle out of his mouth before Owen Farrell said, I think we'll take a kick at goal here, ref.
Yeah, it was a definite decision, wasn't it? As you said, 8 points. You've got a bit of a gap then that you can maybe start to play a little bit, or just keep forcing Quins back.
Just feel for Quins a little bit. They've had to work so hard in this game. As we talked about earlier on, it's been incredibly physical. Probably seen a lot more substitutions earlier on in the game, and it just might be maybe the strength of that Saracens bench that sees them through in this game. Still 20 minutes to go, though.
Yeah, 20 minutes left and 8 points. Now the gap Harlequins 8, Mark McCall's Saracens 16.
Keep behind you, 10. Walking behind you. Walking's behind you.
Chris Robshaw making sure that everybody stays on the right side of the halfway line. Lang will bring this down on the 22. And Cruz hoisted to meet it.
Okay, he's bound in. He is bound in.
Once again, it's Robshaw who's
bound in.
got himself into the mouse
Ripped
hole.
away from Sarries.
Oh, now it's Mako Vunipola. There's been something almost medieval about this contest, but it's been utterly compelling. Here goes Brown, looking for some light. You
Okay,
won't find
7.
any in or around Will Skelton. This is Sinclair, early replacement for Will Collier, if you're recently joining us.
Yes, back man.
Danny Care Waite, 76 England cap as a starter last Saturday against Samoa.
Rip back.
Taken on instead by George Merrick, and then a high tackle, and
Turnover was fine.
Quins will have the penalty.
It's just around his neck.
Yeah, good turnover there. Fortunately, in his haste to try and grab the ball, Wigglesworth goes round the neck.
So he turned the ball over. Chris, just let him know.
Merrick's the back man, he's got no problem picking that up. Ball spills out the side. And it's Wigglesworth on Care.
Yeah, the mark's there. You go and touch, yeah?
It's almost a neck roll, isn't it, really?
Oh, that's a giant-sized kick. And in the end, they'll be about 15 metres short of the try line. But James Lang has given them a toe hold.
He's kicked well out of hand, hasn't he? Particularly for the touch finders on penalties. Very good to see a young man back in his skill set and putting Harlequins into the corner.
Elia finding Merrick, and Robshaw going around the other side, and Elia the hooker almost profiting. Merrick takes on Berger. Figallo had a little bit of a fish over the top. Here goes Bothma. Harlequins debut today. Care still having a look down that shadowy left-hand side. Again, it's Robshaw. Once more Bothma. Once more Vunipola with another tackle. He's now made 11 of them in this match. Saracens continue to rack them up.
Away 7, leave it, silly.
Once again, Merrick.
He made contact first.
Roberts is waiting. He's on
No
his
prop,
blocks.
no prop.
He's just edging forward, but it goes behind him to Lang. Farrell doing what he can to use his physicality to rip the ball back, but it's still South London ball. To do some work to chisel Juan Figallo off that ball. And now this is Sinclair. They've moved beyond 50 phases all told in Saracens 22 so far in this match, and they've mustered just the one try. All that possession in the red zone, just the one try. Maybe a second on the way shortly, we'll see. Bothma again, running for all his worth, but that Saracens defence triple bolted. Brown.
Tackle!
Again, it's Robshaw, and now Luamanu. The work that Sculpt Berger's doing, though. Robshaw once more. Dino Lamb, one of the replacements, offering what support he can. Mike Brown trying to toothpick open the lock. The hammers aren't working at the moment. Luamanu. Saracens' front five have now made more tackles than the entire Harlequins team. You can see how this match has developed yourself. You can see it with your own eyes, and you can see what that latest passage means to a giant-sized Australian.
Yeah, and listen, I'm immensely impressed with the way the Harlequins are playing, but for all the huff and puff, they haven't been able to blow the house down. 21 phases, and they actually got back to the point of where the line-out was taken. So, as much as you can applaud Harlequins, you've got to give Saracens enormous credit for the way that they've defended that 21 phases. Yes, they're tight five and making tackles, but they're not giving away perhaps the penalties that they were in that first half.
Was that at 19?
And they've weathered that storm from Quins.
Does help a little bit, doesn't it, when Will Skelton comes off the bench and you try and put physicality into the backs. I mean, this guy is enormous. And it's very, very difficult to win the contact point against him just on a pure size basis.
The end of Elia's Sunday afternoon, just his second Premiership start, and the end of Joe Marler's 100th in the Premiership. Dave Ward operating again as a hooker today, and Lewis Boyce, the man who's come on to replace Marler, and that's where he stands in the prop charts from a Quins perspective. Great Kerry Jones still top.
New props, no pre-engagement. Sorry.
And,
time on. Crouch!
Yes. Careful, careful. Careful, careful. Right, let's go.
Better balance than that, Quins.
Yeah.
So Lewis Boyce hooking up to the new hooker as well. Lewis Boyce a week on from his first Premiership start at the Rec. Played 77 minutes at Bath. Club really like the way he's scrubbing up. And we've talked about Graham Rowntree and Adam Jones before. John Kingston as well knows a little bit about scrummaging, and Lewis Boyce learning from those three at the moment. But it's a Saracens free kick.
Early movement and threes on his knee as well. First offence, free kick. Free kick.
Kyle Sinclair is the tight head for Quins.
Yep.
The contrast between where the match has been played, 9% of it in Harlequins 22, 36% of it the other end of the pitch. However, it's still Saracens holding that 8-point lead.
Do you know what? I don't think I've seen a game where Saracens have been so starved of possession. Only 35% throughout this whole match on balance, and probably a reflection of the fact they keep coughing the ball back to Quins.
Ben Spencer, who directed operations from the off last week, on now to try and close out business. A little over 10 minutes to go. Luamanu still running hard at Saracens' hard-shouldered defence. Here goes Walker. He won't run hard at the defence, he'll try and run around it. And he's made decent progress beyond the 10-metre line. Lang.
Okay.
Hold on to by Clark. Sinclair.
Be careful, Danny.
Brown is now captaining the side, by the way, after the injury to James Horwill. A lot of strapping on the right knee of Horwill. Inevitably, there'll be some concerns from a Saracens perspective before the Ulster double-header in the Champions Cup. Cleared away by Good.
Just wondered when Harlequins were going to use the boot there. Trying to create an opportunity, ball in hand. Eventually Mike Brown puts boot to ball, but they've got another opportunity now with the line out.
Short one. Two new men, Ward to Boyce.
Sorry.
Sinclair Robshaw into Ray.
He didn't touch the ball.
Merrick has Luke Pearce takes evasive action.
Don't blame him, to be honest.
Lads. Relax, relax, you two relax.
Skelton
Use it now,
trying
Quins.
to push open the locked door. Luamanu makes sure there's no movement. Wiles positions himself, but he was hit like a train by Bothma, who has been prominent throughout.
Yeah, he knew that hit was coming, didn't he? And there was nothing he could do about it. Kept his eyes on the ball, Wiles, and took his punishment. Just about recycles the ball.
Just come away. That's fine, that's fine. No.
Berger. Final 10 minutes.
Might get his chance, Wiles, to get his own back now. A little bit too far, that kick, though, from Spencer.
Chisholm turned his back and found Brown. Yeah. This time it's Farrell who comes in. It's been an old-fashioned game of rugby, this has. Not so much the frills.
Advantage. Advantage.
Quins with the penalty, and Kerr takes it quickly, and he's gone through the defence. Oh, now was he hauled down by Spencer? Ball still being chased, and the try will be scored, and it's Walker. And don't tell Quins that this is a done deal. They've got 10 minutes once more to be the stuff of Saracens' nightmares.
Clever play from Danny Kerr. Takes the advantage, takes the quick tap. He knows no one can touch him, but it needs his teammates to react, and Walker reacts, and he reacts with boatloads of pace.
Then you'll leave the field. Do you
Potentially
understand?
would have been I think maybe a penalty try as well, but Walker comes from the opposite wing, sees the tap penalty and gets on the end of it. Great play from Quins.
Yeah, I think when you give away a penalty like that, as Spencer did, you can't let Danny Kerr get his hands on the ball. If you're going to commit the Harry Carry and dive on the ball, keep hold of it.
Oh, we've got a decent conclusion to this match. We're within a point. Quins 15, Sarries 16 after this bit of brilliance.
Yeah, he knows exactly what he's doing. The kick is pinpoint as well. You run at those defenders right in front of you. They have to let you move at least 5 metres or get back onside, or someone from the backfield come forward. And when you've got someone with the pace of Charlie Walker on your outside, there's only one result, 7 points. Walker came from so far away. He was on the opposite side of the field and he reacted miles quicker. In fact, he was the only one to react.
Brown again under the high-hanging restart.
Okay, 7. 5, let me come, 5.
Lewis Boyce amongst those waiting. He's got his arms out in readiness. Here he is.
Tackle!
Berger making it so difficult to get that ball back quickly. Every single one a little mini grapple.
Well, they know that every inch counts at the moment. Danny Kerr with the box kick. That's a really nice one.
Beautifully done by Good as well. And once again, as he always does, Ray makes ground. Now Vunapoli, you'll expect him to make it. Oh, he's splintered the defence, and this is Skelton. What a response from Saracens. Oh, there's a penalty coming for Sarries.
Advantage Saracens.
Farrell floats it to Wiles. Bosch is there, making sure that his mate knows all about it. Spencer. Once again, Skelton. Very mobile smokestack, but frustration for Vunipola, but Butt will come for the penalty. Oh, the frustration.
Oh, he's a human wrecking ball, Skelton, isn't he? Just so hard to stop. First it's Vunipola, bashes 2 or 3 tackles away, gets the offload to Skelton, just looking for a runner to come round. He eventually puts it on to George. Danny Kerr did well there.
He did, but
could have easily been a penalty.
The penalty's the other way, because if you're tackled and you're held on the floor, you can't throw the ball off the floor in a tackle. And it's an area of law that needs to get cleared up because we see so many teams do it.
Size 18s.
Same as me.
Can't wander into Clark's and ask for a pair of size 18s. They've not got many of those in the storeroom, have they? That's an online purchase, isn't it, Lol? You might know about that.
Well, I'm a mere 13, so I couldn't tell you, but...
What size are you, sir? 18. Can't help.
What options have you got?
Got some clown shoes over there if you want them.
Making the absolute most of his allocated 60 seconds. And again, another successful kick for Owen Farrell. And it's not the most comfortable of cushions, but it's a little bit plumper. Quins 15, Saracens 19.
Looks like they might have to go to the scoop restart down the middle for Visser.
Restart, all important. It's been knocked on by Quins. Maybe Chris Robshaw, he's not entirely sure about it, but Luke Pearce was. Spencer. Advantage is gone. Brown. Maitland first up. Ward offering some protection for Kerr. Boyce.
Just a little bit isolated, Boyce there. Manages to hold on.
The way Bothma ran into Skelton. Here's Chisholm. Starting fullback last weekend at the Rec. Now here's Bothma. He's going to play a full 80. First minutes in a Quinn shirt in the Aviva Premiership.
He's been rolled the wrong way there. He's lucky to get it back. There goes Kerr again.
Once more. Trick that worked the last time. Merrick. Roberts. Oh, I'm not sure that Visser was expecting that.
Off his foot. Okay, flanker.
And Quinn's a little bit fortunate to be able to reload and go again with Boyce. Lang. He's done well to go the duration as well after being put under severe early pressure, a bit of pain as well. But stayed with us.
Big hits.
Skelton once more providing them. And this is Lamb. And again, that battle for the prize on the floor. Sinclair, nice line run. Oh, and Lang. Oh, and he's scragged back by Skelton. One telescopic arm.
Yes.
Okay,
Brown.
high tackle.
Now we're playing the advantage. That's what we'll come back for. TMO Keith Lewis just quickly shuttled that back
on
to
the back of the shirt.
Double check.
Just on the back of the shirt, rose up.
I think it's harsh, that. I mean,
I think it's really harsh.
I think Danny Kerr's appealed to the referee for that, and he's rightly or wrongly given it.
He's got hold of the number, not the collar.
It's not, you know, it's not a seatbelt tackle. It's not a high tackle.
Thanks, man.
Nothing wrong with grabbing someone's shirt.
Well, fair play to Skelton to get across because Lang was shifting then on the angle.
Shoulder that was bothering him at the start of the match. Oz is bothering him again, not surprising.
Yeah, not surprising when 23 stone lands on top of you. He's done well to stay on throughout the game, but it's a crucial time now for Quins. This kick to the corner, he's been very good all day from penalties. He's got to go to the corner and he's got to really back himself. He's got to give the forwards a chance of getting the drive on. And they only really get that if they're inside 10 metres.
Caught a little glimpse of Ian Pryor there, who, not for the first time in this match, has been hopping around on the touchline, wondering if this might be his moment. He'd be the replacement for James Lang if John Kingston decided to shake things up, but they don't need to shake things up. So how much distance, how much pressure can Lang provide off this kick to touch?
That'll do. It's a very, very impressive kick. I mean, sometimes it's almost to your advantage when you're not quite on the 5 metre line. Just opens up a few more options for you round the back.
Ward to the front, picking out Merrick. Luamanu took it under his arms. There's a penalty coming. Kerr. Oh, they go for the crossfield kick again. Brown's chasing after it. It's been lost by Good, and Visser will score. And Harlequins are at it again. Against Saracens, they are at it again.
Oh my word, the celebration start from Danny Kerr. He did it once in the first half. He knew exactly what he's doing, quick thinking. Penalty advantage. Might as well go for it. And for all money, you expected Alex Good just to field this. But he slightly lost the flight of the ball, maybe in the lights. And one hand tips it on to Visser. And the Quins faithful are delirious. They can't believe it. What a time to score. With the kick. It could take the full minute for the conversion. You feel the clock could be run out. And Quins have snatched this game.
Oh, he got a try in the win here last season. It's not a confirmed win yet, but it looks awfully like it might be now, Oz.
It does. Again, Danny Kerr's kicking game. This time the kick wasn't actually on the money. It took a little bit of fortune and misread from Alex Good's hand, but got to give Quins huge credit, haven't you? They've come out, they've faced up to Sarries, they've taken them on physically, and then two pieces of real skill from their 9 and a tap penalty and a bit of pace from Charlie Walker potentially have seen them home.
On its way. And we will have time for the restart. What a huge moment this is. The accuracy of the restart. Where will Saracens go? They've got to win it back. Harlequins are now on their defensive toes once more. Deep breaths in the Saracen side of things. Passive faces, Quins-wise.
Oh, it's not good enough. It's a short one.
And it's gathered in by Robshaw. He's been immense all game, Chris Robshaw, as have Quins. Once more, they've knocked Saracens off their perch. It's a good job Sarries don't play here every week. What a game. Old-fashioned blood and guts on a Sunday afternoon in southwest London. And again, it's Harlequins against Saracens. Harlequins 20, Saracens 90.
Well, you've got to give an enormous amount of credit to Harlequins. No one saw that coming.